To make our game attractive, to give captions, titles to the game, and if you want to write something, then you need fonts. So let's understand what are the different functions which are available in the font class and how you can use it. So there are basically these are some of the basic functions. The first one is pygame.font.init method. Whenever you are using any module which are present in some class, then you have to initialize that module first. To initialize any module, you have to use method which is init. So if you are writing pygame.init, it means that you are initializing all the module at once. But instead of initializing all the module, if you think that it's consuming lots and lots of memory, then you can do one thing. You can initialize only the module which you need in your program. So if you want to initialize, the first step is pygame.font.init method. The next is, after initializing any module, when you quit your program, it's important to uninitialize all the module. So when we quit or close down the application, all the resources are deallocated. In the similar way, pygame.font.quit is used to uninitialize the module. So this is written at the end of the program. Instead of writing these two steps, basically we just write pygame init and pygame quit, and we initialize all the module at once and we uninitialized at once. So instead of just importing or initializing one module at a time, it's better to go for this statement which is pygame.init. The next is pygame.font.getInit. So this functions returns if the font module is initialized or not. So if you want to check if the font module is initialized or not, then you can check that with the help of this function. And if this function returns true, it means that the font module is initialized. The next is pygame.font.getDefaultFont. If you want to check what is the default font for your program, then you can check that with the help of this, so that you can use any other font if you want. The next is pygame.font.getFonts. It is not an easy task to remember all the fonts because the names are really complicated. So if you want to get the list of all the available fonts in your module, then you can do that with the help of pygame.font.getFonts. So this getFonts function will give you all the available fonts in the Pygame. It will give you in a list format, so you can check out what are the fonts and you can use them to make your game attractive. The next is pygame.font.matchFont. So basically it get all the list of the matching fonts. For example, if you want to check whether the font is available in the Pygame or not, then you can do with the help of matchFont. The next is pygame.font.systemFont. So this creates a font object from the system font. So whatever the system fonts are present from those system font, it helps us to create the object and you can use that font in your program. The next is pygame.font.font. So it creates a new font object from a file. So for example, there are certain TFF files. So you can use those font and you can create the object of that font and use it in your program to write some text in that particular font. So these are some of the basic functions of the Pygame. Now here I have written one program, and with the help of that program, I'll show you how all of these functions work. The first is Pygame. You have to import the necessary module, which is Pygame. The next is we will initialize all the modules in the Pygame. So you can do that with the help of pygame.init method. This is the one step. Or so this step will initialize all the modules. Here we learn how to initialize the font module. To initialize the font module, you have to write pygame.font.init method. So instead of writing pygame.init, you can also write pygame.font.init. So this is also one way to write initialize a particular module. Instead of writing this, what we'll do, we'll just comment it out and let's see what happens if we just initialize the font module. Okay. The next is we need to create the display. To create the display, you need to write the statement which is pygame.display.setMode. So this setMode method will create a window for you, and here you need to pass the tuple. The tuple is 600, 380. 600 is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. You can also do like this. You can write here size and Here you can pass whatever size you want. For example, I want 600 comma 300. So first create tuple here and then just pass the name of the variable here, which is size. So this is another way of setting the values of the window. Pygame.display.set mode and pass the size of the window. Then it's important to create the clock for your program, which refreshes your screen according to the frames per second. So to set the frame per second rate, you have to initialize that with the help of the clock method. So basically it updates your screen to update your screen according to the frame per second ratio. Now this is the variable which is declared and the value is set to false. Basically this is for loop. I'll explain the use of this variable as well. Now we want to create a window, and on that window I want to create two text. One text is game and another text is Pygame. Okay. To do that, we have font which is pygame.font.sysfont. Sysfont means I'm taking the font from some particular system. So that's why these are the system fonts. So Comic Sans SMS. So this is the system font and this is the size I'm going to pass. So for this font, for this particular font, I want to put text that is game. So text is equal to font.render. Render method is used to write the text on the window. So game, true, and this is the color of the font. Okay. This is the another method where we can use this font, which is pygame.font.font. As I have already explained you, this creates a file font object from a file. So this is the file which is free sans bold tf, and from this file I'm going to create the object for this file and I'm going to write some text and the size is 32. Okay. So I'm going to write Pygame here with the help of this font which is free sans bold.ttf. Now these are some of the functions which I'll explain you now. Okay. So we are going to create two text. One is the game and another is Pygame. We are going to create a game text and the font is this Comic Sans SMS, and we are going to create another text which is Pygame and the font is sans bold tf. Okay. Now I want to check all the fonts in my system. To check all the fonts in the system, we will use x is equal to pygame.font.getFonts method. So with the help of this get fonts, I'll get the list of all the fonts in the system. So if I'll run this code, I'll get list of all the fonts. So these are the different fonts which are available, that is Arial, Arial Black, Calibri, Cambria, Candra. So these are the different fonts. You can use any of these fonts to write on the window. So if you don't remember what are the different fonts, you can get the list of all these fonts here with the help of the function which is pygame.font.getFonts. I've already explained you this function which is here, that is pygame.font.getFonts. So it will give you the list of all the available fonts in the game. And print x. So here you have to write a variable and in that variable you will call a function and whatever the list is there, it will get stored in the variable x and we have printed that variable here. Now to get the default font, what is the default font? Then you will write pygame.font.getDefaultFont and you will get that value. For now the default font here is this freesansbold.ttf is the default font. This is the last part where you can create a program. We will create a loop and we will update the screen. So here for event in pygame.event.get. So this method, pygame.event.get method, gets all the events which are happening in a queue. So it will returns a queue and in that queue, whatever the events has happened are stored. So we can iterate through all of these events one by one. And if any of these event is equal to quit, we will come out of the loop. The loop breaks. And if some event is equal to key down, if someone presses the escape key, and then also we are going to terminate the loop. You can also skip this step. There is no need of this step. Then we are going to fill the screen with the black color. No, it's red color, I think. 255, 255, 0. In this way, you have to pass the tuple. Then these are the two important method, which is blit method. With the help of blit, you can add your whatever object you have created to the surface. So this is the object which I have created, and these are the coordinates on which I want to put that object. So I have created two texts, and these two texts, with the help of blit function, I'm going to put it on the window. So this is the flip method. Flip method is basically used to update the particular areas of the screen. If you want to update the entire screen, then you just write update. But if you want to update the specific areas on the screen, then write flip. And then set the clock ticks. Clock ticks is 40. So after 40 frame per second, the screen will be updated. And pygame.quit is used to uninitialize all the initialized method. Now we have made one change here. Instead of writing here, I have written pygame.font.init. So in the similar way, I will write pygame.font.quit. Okay. Now let's run this code to check the output. So this is our output. The background is set to yellow. The one name is in green color and another name is in pink color. Okay. So in this way you can create text on the window and using different fonts and different colors.